Hello everyone, welcome to the new session on class Aves. In the last sessions we were discussing about class Reptilia, and now we are stepping ahead in the evolutionary scale and we are at class Aves or birds. So this also belongs to phylum Chordata, class Aves. So as in this particular uh, class Aves, in the first sessions, we'll be discussing about the salient features of the class, which is followed by their classification and examples, which is followed by two general topics, mainly the flight adaptations in birds and also migration in birds. Coming to the salient features, class Aves can be confined, or the features can be confined with some terminologies like uh, their their body is covered by feathers. They are air-breathing, warm-blooded, bipedal, and oviparous vertebrates. Being their and the main feature of the class Aves is that their body is covered by feathers, which is an adaptation for their aerial mode of life, and air breathing in the sense they are terrestrial with a fully functional lungs, warm-blooded, and bipedal in the sense they use their hind limbs for locomotion, and they lay eggs, which is called as oviparous vertebrates. So the salient features of this particular class will be discussed under different heads, primarily starting with the morphological adaptations, followed by the most important skeletal adaptations, after which we'll see the circulatory, digestive, then reproductive, excretory, etc. So these are the salient feature, or the headings of the salient features that we are going to discuss. So coming to the salient features of this particular class Aves, the salient features of this particular class is or the features of this particular class can be taken into consideration in that their body is entirely adapted or entirely modified for their particular mode of life, which is the aerial mode of life. Their entire systems, including their visceral organs, their the skeletal system, etc., everything is modified in such a way that to suit their mode of life. So coming to the morphological features, their body is aerodynamically or streamlined or spindle shaped body, which favors them to reduce resistance during flight. So this is the spindle shape which is having the ends which are pointed. The same is case with every bird. You can see that their body is spindle shaped from head to tail, with the wings which are spread towards the lateral sides, which helps in flight. Their aerodynamically streamlined or spindle-shaped body with the head, neck, trunk, and tail. And the feet is covered. You can see that the feet is not covered. The entire feet is not covered with scales, feathers. It's covered with scales. The forelimb is modified into wings with clawless digits. In the forelimb, they do not have digits. When we discussed about reptiles, we saw that their forelimbs and hind limbs contained claws or clawed digits, but clawed digits are absent in the forelimbs of aves. The body and forelimb is covered by backwardly directed feathers. So if you zoom into this particular pictures, you can see that their feathers are, you can see here all the feathers are backwardly directed. You can see here all the feathers in the sense of the body as well as the wings are backwardly directed. This is also a adaptation for swift movement by cutting the resistance in the air. The hind limbs are adapted for walking, perching, as well as swimming. The other skin glands are absent except a pair which is seen in the except as present an oil gland which is seen at the tip of the tail region or on the tail. These preen glands or the oil glands are used to preen the feathers. That means to make their feathers smooth, and also not to make them fluffy, so that there will be minimum resistance for moving in the air. So the preen glands produces oil, and what birds usually do is, you might have seen birds doing this particular behavior. They peck this particular gland with their beaks, and the oil which is now on the beaks will be smoothly will be put on their feathers to make their feathers smooth. Coming to the skeletal system, you can see that the skeletal system is entirely modified in a way to suit their mode of life. The jaw is modified into toothless beaks, which is covered by rhamphotheca. So rhamphotheca is nothing but it is a thin sheath of keratin on the outer surface of the beak. So you can see in this particular diagram the beak, the jaw, as well as the rhamphotheca covering it. So in this particular diagram, you can see, so this is the jaw portion, which is bony, and you can see this colored portion, which is the colored portion, the orange colored portion, which is covering the jaw or the beak. The jaw is modified into toothless beak, and that beak is covered by that orange coating, which is called as the rhamphotheca. The bones are pneumatic in the sense that the bones enclose air-filled cavity in them, and this is an adaptation to make their body lightweight, so that they can move in, or so they can move through the air quickly. So you can see how or the difference between the normal bone as well as the pneumatic bone. So this is an original image of a pneumatic bone, where you can see the cavities inside, and also you should observe the thickness of the outer surface. When you come to human bone, the thickness of the thick, as you see here, you can see this particular point where the thickness of the bone is very much reduced. But when you come to the bones of mammals, you can see that it will be heavily studded with, or it will be thick with calcium deposit. Here you can see the difference between. So this is a difference between an avian and an human bone. So in the human bone, you can see that so you can see the air cavities or the pneumatic bone here. In the case of human bone, you can see that the bone which is completely filled with calcium, studded with calcium deposit, and also you can see the bone marrow. In the case of Aves, bone marrow is not seen in every bone. It is seen only in certain bones like the femur, the humerus, etc. It is restricted to certain bones. All the other bones, they have the airspace inside the bone to make it lightweight. So that's with the pneumatic bone, which are the air-filled or the bones which are having air-filled cavity in them, which makes their body lightweight. The skull is monocondylic with a single occipital condyle. There's only a single occipital condyle which is connecting the first vertebra. Another special or structures are the sacrum and the Pygo style. So when you see the skeletal system, to reduce the weight, there are many modifications which can be seen in Aves that is intended to reduce their body weight. Of which the first one we have discussed earlier, which is the pneumatic bones. The air-filled spaces in the bones makes the bones very light or paperweight. As a result, the body becomes lightweight. Another modifications or another changes that are seen in the skeletal system is the fusion of bones. That is, in various locations, the bones are fused. As a result, the fusion of the bones also result in reduction in weight. The fusion can be seen mainly in the vertebral column and also the skull. The skull of bird is also very lightweight, or you can call it as a paperweight skull, because all the bones in the skull, they are fused and it is very thin, making it very light. So the fusion of the bones is also an adaptation for making their body lightweight. And such two regions or such two structures where the bones, the fused bones can be seen as the sacrum and the Pygo style. that is also shown here. You can see both the synsacrum as well as the pygostyle. So synsacrum is nothing but they are the fused bones, or the vertebrae of the lumbar region, the caudal, and also the lumbar region, and also the anterior caudal region. The vertebrae in those regions, that is lumbar, sacral, and the anterior caudal bones, they fuse together. Those bones are fused together to form the structure, or the fused structure, which is called as the synsacrum. So this is the area. So this green marked area, you can see that the bones, all the bones will be fused and they form a single plate, and that is called as the synsacrum. So here synsacrum is the fused bones of the lumbar region, the sacral region, and the anterior region of the caudal vertebra. You can see some of the caudal vertebra which are separate here, and also there is another fusion of the last part of the caudal vertebra. They fuse to form a structure which is called as the pygostyle. So synsacrum and pygostyle are the fused bones which are seen in the vertebral column, where the synsacrum is the fused vertebrae of the lumbar region, the sacral region, and the anterior caudal region. The middle caudal vertebrae, they are separate, and you can see in the posterior region the caudal vertebrae, they are fused, and that fused bones of the caudal region is called as the pygostyle. So as I mentioned earlier, the fused bones, or the fusion of the bones, is the main intention of the main function of the fused bones is to reduce weight. Coming to the next category of the skeletal modification. So here we'll see the synsacrum clearly here. Okay, the thing which is marked 1 is the synsacrum. So here you can see that. So here you can find how the separated vertebra look like, and here you can see from here the portion, or this particular portion, the vertebra is completely fused, and this is the synsacrum. And here you can see, which is marked as 2, the posterior caudal vertebra is also fused, and that is called as the pygostyle. So next is the pelvic girdle is fused with the synsacrum throughout the entire length. That is another feature that is that can be seen in the same diagram. Okay, here the pelvic girdle. So pelvic girdle is the girdle which support the hind limb. You can see the hind limb here. So this is the girdle. So this particular girdle, the structure like this, the pelvic girdle. So this much is one half of the pelvic girdle, and you have the other half in the other end. The central portion is the vertebral column. So this particular region, which is the pelvic girdle, is fused with the vertebral column. So that is another modification, or another thing which is seen in the skeletal as the skeletal feature of, or the modified salient features in the skeletal system. The pelvic girdle is fused with the synsacrum throughout the entire length. Next is another important structure which is present in bird, which is the sternum with a keel, and also some other structures which are present along with it. So this is the structure which is called as the keel. So sternum is nothing but sternum is a plate where, so here will be the sternum. So this region will be the sternal region, where the ribs unite in the ventral side, where the ribs unite. The plate is called as a sternum. So here the sternum is not a flat piece as seen in humans. So you can feel your sternum, which is a flat piece in the center of your chest in the ventral side. So here the sternum is not a flat piece as seen in humans. So here the centrum is broadened. Okay, and broadened, and it forms a flat ore-like structure, a flattened ore-like structure, and that flattened structure, or the extension of the synsacrum is, the extension of the sternum is called as the keel. And this keel is the site for the attachment of the powerful flight muscle. The pectoral flight muscles are attached to this particular keel, which assist them in flight. So that is the main function of this extended structure called as the keel. It is a site for attachment of the powerful flight muscles. Then the ribs are double-headed with backwardly directed uncinate processes. So that can be seen here. The uncinate process can be seen here. So if you see, check this particular diagram. You can see this marked 4 is what is called as a keel, and you can see these are the ribs. So actually the ribs are double-headed. The ribs are double-headed. The double heads cannot be seen in this particular diagram, but you can see the uncinate process. So these backwardly directed spines, this row of spines, you can see some spines like this which are backwardly directed. These spines, they are called as the uncinate process. So the uncinate process which is present in the ribs, backwardly directed spine, which is called as the uncinate process. So the function of these process is to strengthen the thoracic area, which houses the lungs and helps in the process of respiration. So it strengthens the thoracic area. Mainly it strengthens the thoracic area for the support of the ribs. So that is the uncinate process, the backwardly directed spine, which is seen in the ribs. Another structure or another feature that is seen in the avian skeleton is a V-shaped furcula, which is called as the wishbone. So this is the one which is marked as 5 as the furcula. So furcula is nothing but it is the extension of the fused V-shaped structure formed by the clavicles. Clavicle is nothing but our shoulder bone. So in the case of humans, you can feel a straight bone or two straight bones which are connecting in front of your throat. You can feel that very hard bones which are straight. So imagine that particular bone, if you are extending it downwards, it forms a structure like V. And that particular structure is called as the furcula. That is, this clavicle is fused together. They fuse and they form a V-shaped structure, and that V-shaped structure is called as the furcula. It is called as furcula because the term furcula denotes a little fork. It is somewhat, the structure is similar to a fork, or it is similar to a V-shaped structure. And hence it is also called as wishbone. This furcula is also called as the wishbone. So here you can see the furcula much more clear in this particular thing. The furcula or the wishbone is a forked bone formed by the fusion of the clavicle, which is a shoulder bone. So you can see the clavicles also here. So its function is to strengthen the thoracic skeleton to withstand the rigor during flight. So here you can see the clavicles of human. So this is the clavicle. The green one is the clavicle of human. So what happens is, if this clavicle, it bends and form a V-like structure, and that structure is seen here in birds, which is called as the V-shaped furcula. Okay, and that also assists in flight. Coming to so these are the most important modifications in the skeletal system. Another important modification is that when we talked about the vertebral column, we said that most of the vertebrae is fused. Only in some areas they are free. The main area where the vertebral column is free is the neck, the cervical vertebra. So the cervical vertebra of bird is having a special centrum which is called as a heterocellular syndrome. So the term heterocellular refers to, hetero means different. That means every centrum is different. You cannot specify a particular structure for the centrum. Every centrum of every vertebra is different, and it is said that each centrum it is having a saddle shape. So the saddle shapes of two different centrum, they interlock, and such an interlocking mechanism is efficient for the movement of their neck. The birds have the ability to rotate their neck, etc. So such important functions, or to shift their neck towards backward. So the movement of the neck, or the flexibility, that's a correct term to be used. The flexibility of the neck of birds is due to this particular cervical vertebra, which is a heterocellular vertebra. Heterocellular means all the vertebrae are different. That is why the term hetero denotes. So each and every vertebra is different, and it is said that the centrum is having a saddle shape, and this saddle shape structures, the interlocking saddle structures helps in the flexibility of the cervical vertebra. So this is the important features of the skeletal system. Moving on to the circulatory system. Circulatory system, the heart is four chambered, and they have, because it is four chambered, they have double circulation. Double circulation in the sense that double circulation means when blood comes to the heart twice before being distributed to the different parts of the body, it is called as a double circulation. That is, the veins bring blood to the heart through the vena cavas. From the vena cavas, it is taken to the lungs. From the lungs, it is brought back again. So it takes two routes into the heart again before it is being transported to different parts, and hence it is called as the double circulation, or such a type of circulation is called as a double circulation. So the RBCs here is oval, biconvex and nucleated. If you compare it with the humans, we have a biconcave type of RBC, which is non-nucleated. Here they are having a nucleated one. So in this particular diagrams, you can see the position of the heart, and also the circulatory system where the veins and the arteries are reaching, and also you can see the four chambered heart here, the right atrium, the left atrium, right ventricle, and the left ventricle. So this much about the salient features of coming under the we have discussed under three headings. The first was morphological, and an elaborate one which is skeletal, and the third one which is circulatory system. The rest will be discussed in the next session. Thanks for hearing.